This is the Daily Freakout for Tuesday, the 3rd of February, 2026. And the intro. I went and got new batteries for the sampler to do the intro, and that was great. I pulled some out of the keyboard, it was all great and stuff. And then I was playing with settings and stuff up here, and it's still doing it. So I'm going to try and, I don't know what that means and what that means. And I'm pressing buttons and everything, and then that comes in nice and distorted and gatey and all fun stuff. It's all going wrong as it always does. Welcome to the Daily Freakout. One of the episodes that probably no one will ever hear because it's still in these early days of just trying to get something done and get it out there and practicing as you go. The unfortunate thing is that this kind of thing doesn't earn, does it? You have to get good at it in order to earn from it. Whereas you could go get a job doing something and earn some money and not be good at it and learn on the job. Although I guess that's what you go to uni for, isn't it? You learn at uni, you pay to learn. So maybe that's what I'm doing now. Maybe this is my uni. I'm paying to learn. And even though I come right back here and I come right up here, it sounds pretty similar. So I don't know what I've done there on the settings. I've changed something and it's gone. The day has started off pretty good. Today's Tuesday, but it is my Sunday. So my schedule at the moment is a Wednesday to Sunday type of working schedule. And it means that Monday, Tuesday is my weekend. So yesterday I had a delightful day with the dogs. We went to the park, and there's a section in the park that I go to. So the park that we go to is a reserve, technically. It is an old tip. When you get told that, you sort of realise, oh yeah, that makes sense when you think of where things are and the mounds and all that kind of stuff. And when you go off the path or off the area, so there's no actual, there's a couple of sort of paths, but it's mostly human or user created paths, i.e. people that are walking around creating these areas. And when you go off those into the bushes, it's a lot of fun because you can feel like you're really far away from humanity, civilization. You can hear some cars in the distance and even some ocean at sometimes when the wind's just right. And my dogs, being Jack Russell Cross Fox Terriers, they like to forage and sniff and explore more than run necessarily. They do like to run, of course, but we do a bit of running. Then we go into the bushes and they have a nice sniff and an explore, and who knows, one day they might actually catch something. Doubtful. And we did that yesterday. We went and sat there at the park. It was fantastic. It was a great way to spend a Saturday arvo. I went and got some food on the way there, and yeah, we had a great time. It was really nice just lying there on my blanket, looking at my phone, listening to some stuff. What did I listen to? I can't remember. I usually listen to a podcast or something. And funnily enough, but maybe a bit TMI, but I'm very, very content these days with being single and being by myself and doing my own thing when I want, all that kind of stuff. Yesterday, when I was at the park and I was sitting down on my picnic blanket, and we were just, I didn't take anything. As I said, I had my food that I bought, and I was eating, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? It actually would be really nice to share this place with somebody, to feel like somebody could appreciate it with me and stuff like that. And I felt, even though I'm 43, I often feel a lot younger mentally. I don't think I've necessarily fully developed into an adult in a lot of areas. And if my ex ever sees this, she'll be like, I knew it! I was right! And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah. But I felt like it was this sort of my escape from the world. And I don't know if that's necessarily a young person thing or what have you, or whether I haven't developed and I felt this way, or maybe adults feel this way as well. But I felt like it was my private little thing, my little secret, as it were, in that in order to get to the spot that I like to get to, you kind of have to forage. Like, you have to, the path isn't obvious. To start with, it's obvious, But once you get right down into it, it's not obvious where you're meant to turn and where you're meant to go and the easiest way to get through to get to the spot. And I did a bit of exploring yesterday and went even further in, which was pretty exciting and pretty interesting. It's there's a lot more areas and spaces to explore in there, and I thought to myself, yeah, I'd like to share this with someone. It'd be really nice. Um, think of, if you've read 1984, there's the section where the girl whose name I can't remember either of the main characters' names, to be honest, but the girl the love interest that he meets takes him to a secluded spot in amongst the way I pictured it was almost in a forest. There was a clearing, and it felt like that. It feels a lot like that, in that if I had a partner there and stuff, and we would probably have a bit of a cuddle and a bit of a kiss, and you'd feel very private and alone, even though you're in the woods and stuff like that. And it just felt really nice. But then at the same time, I thought of, who do I know now that I would happily take to that spot? And I don't think I've got anyone, because I don't think I could trust anyone to feel about it the right way, if that makes sense. Because some people might go, geez, dude, you're an adult. You're almost 43. Come on, you shouldn't be doing this. And then other people might be like, I don't know, if I met somebody new and I took them there, and would I be worried that they'd tell someone that I was doing it and that I'd get into trouble? Or, you know what I mean? There's just this weird thing. And you become very protective. And I think over the years, when you share private and protective things with people, and if they either positively or negatively or whatever reject you for that, it can be very disappointing and upsetting, and you don't like it, and it feels crap, and it's bad. And so you don't do it, and then you shut up and you shut down, and you don't share these things. But hopefully someday I'll find someone, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just be a loner hermit, which is the more likely thing for me, in my opinion. But anyway, on the way out of this space, I could hear noises, like a hitting noise. And I thought it was a ball. I thought someone had a ball, a sports ball, a basketball, a soccer ball, a football, something like that, and they were bouncing it. That's what it felt like. And so I assumed that they were just walking past, and they were just going from one spot to another, and they'd be gone, and then we could leave. And as I got closer and closer to the point where we come out of the bushes, I didn't want anyone to see me coming out of the bushes, or going into the bushes, because from their perspective, that's weird. That's really weird. And they don't know what I'm doing in there. I could be doing all sorts of dangerous and terrible things and creepy things. I'm literally just putting down a picnic blanket and sitting with my dogs whilst listening to a podcast, but they don't know that, and that's fair. It is a fair response or it would be a fair response for them to have. So I was like, well, there's people up there. We can't just walk out. I can't just let the dogs go and all of a sudden appear from the bushes. Especially given that I've got a backpack with I roll my my picnic blanket up on the top of my backpack, so it looks like a bedroll thing, and I think to other people I would probably look a little bit dodgy, and so I'm aware of that and try to avoid looking too dodgy. So I said to myself, I can't just walk out. We get closer, and I can see them through the bushes. And as I'm sure you know, if you're in the bushes, you can see out much better than people can see in. I'm not exactly sure why that is. Probably has to do with the way the leaves... Oh man, I've got a bit of the burps. It's probably got to do with the way the leaves sit, and the way they're made, or the way they leave, the way they sit. And I'm standing there and I could see them, and I realized what the noise was it was a personal trainer training someone, and they were doing boxing. They were doing a little boxing for fitness. So it was the boom, 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 boom. The beats of hitting pads, and then the occasional kick. And I'm like, oh, okay, they're probably going to be there for a bit. So I'm like, okay, well, they've been there for maybe a half hour. Maybe the session's an hour. It's another half hour. I'm like, okay. So I sit down, and then eventually I sit even further down on the bank so that they can't, so that they couldn't see me. And I put a podcast in my ear, and so pleased and proud of my dogs, because my dogs are very reactionary and can be a bit barky sometimes. And they wanted to have a bark and have a comment about the noises they were hearing, but they listened to me and they stayed with me, which was really good. And they did forage a little bit whilst I was just sitting and trying not to draw attention to myself. But they were really good. It's always my concern when I'm trying to be a little bit stealthy at the park and not draw attention to myself that they're going to ruin me. And we sat there, and I think I ended up sitting for about an hour. So what was meant to be a pretty short day at the park, where we did a bit of a walk, we did a bit of a forage, we did a bit of a sit and a nap, and then we go home, ended up being an almost 6-hour trip to the park. I was genuinely getting worried that I may have to go home in the dark, which I wasn't prepared for. I didn't have a torch or anything. And so, yeah, all in the interests of not being seen to be a weirdo, I ended up spending 6 hours at the park. So, yeah, that was my Saturday, effectively. Even though it was Monday, that was my Saturday. And today I've managed to do a classic Sunday thing of staying in bed quite late. It is 10 o'clock now. I was about to say if you're not watching the live stream, but no one's watching the live stream. What am I talking about? These things go up live and no one watches them. Because I'm still learning. I'm still at uni. That's what I'm doing. I'm at uni. Maybe this year's uni. So let's do a little bit more about me. I'm very much lost at the moment as to what I want to do with my life. I've always been lost in what I want to do with my life, and towards the end of last year, I had a flush of ideas, and I started buying things, and I've bought a bunch of stuff. I'm surrounded right here by way too much technology, and I had all these ideas and stuff, and I just don't have the personal confidence to really put them into action at the moment, and that's very disappointing and very frustrating for me. Oh man, classic ADHD, I've lost the train of thought of where I was going as to why I was talking about that. Oh, there we go. And so maybe I need to spend the rest of this year thinking of life as though I'm at uni. Maybe that's an idea. Do you ever do that? Do you ever try to tell yourself, okay, I need to just reevaluate the way I'm thinking and the way I'm doing stuff, and go, look, I am now going to be quote unquote at uni. So the rest of this year is not about making money, which is a real shame because my rent's going up and I'm not struggling a fair bit. So I'm looking at getting a second job at the moment and having absolutely no time to do anything else, which means this would become even more of a struggle, which is what uni students do. You hear about it, uni students that do 40 hours of work a week and then also do other stuff, go to school and stuff like that. So maybe this year's uni. Maybe I should call it the Daily Freakout, the uni year for 2026. We'll see. Take me back to pre-COVID when I felt like I actually had some money to live okay and pay rent wasn't a struggle. Anyway, found a news article that I want to talk about today. We'll see how it, whether it's any good or whether it's something that you think is of interest as well. And the article is lead in archived hair documents, lead in archived hair documents, a decline in lead. So that should be a headline, not a thing. Anyway, a decline in lead exposure to humans since the establishment of the US Environmental Protection Agency. So they're saying that there's not as much lead in our bodies as there used to be. And that's fascinating. And it got me thinking, not necessarily about lead, because so many people will say, oh, that's the reason why boomers are so stupid and gullible. They've all got lead in their system and stuff. And then other people are like, My grandparents, lead in their asbestos in their lungs. My parents, lead in their brains. Me, microplastics everywhere. So it seems that our lives are constantly we're constantly coming up with new technologies that are creating wonderful things, but also doing us harm and doing us damage. And this article got me thinking, not necessarily that um, lead particularly is a problem. Like it is a problem, of course, but not specifically about lead, but just in general. What are we doing to ourselves on a on a day-to-day basis that is bad for us that we won't realize until we're much older? Um, I know there's a certain communities and people out there that are very much believe that like Wi-Fi has negative things. You know, those people that are like, oh, the 5G towers are coming and it's microwaves and it's just going to fry our brains and stuff. And people who are like, oh, you should put your phone in a Faraday cage overnight and you shouldn't sleep near a Wi-Fi router. And people who think that you're going to get testicle cancer because you're putting your phone in your pocket, which is really close to your testicles, and things like all these things like that. And I don't think you can dismiss them out and out. I don't think you can do that because Wi-Fi is that like Wi-Fi is working. It is current. It is doing it. I mean, technically, right now, I'm streaming via my phone with the iPad and the other technology. The connection between that and that, I don't know how that works. I don't know. I know that it works when I click the buttons and I put the settings to the right settings, but I don't know how that works. Is that causing a problem? And then you have some people are susceptible to these things and some people aren't. So the people who aren't are like, oh, well, it's fine by me. It's no problem. And then other people are like, no, it actually is a problem. And then we have satellites all over the place beaming GPS signals and all these other things. And it's like, what are we doing that is that terrible? Or what are we doing that isn't that terrible that we think is terrible? And it really did just get me thinking that it's very important to have. So this is referencing the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So obviously, that most countries around the world have got environmental protection agency type groups, and this one has done this test and worked out that we've got less lead in our system, and that's a good thing because we've done the experiments and we've established that lead is bad and stuff like that. But what are they? What I'm somewhat lost for words as to where I want to go with this because how do we know that even though a group like an environmental protection agency is doing the right thing? We don't know. And we spend all this time just sort of running around in life going, oh, I'll do anything, I'll do whatever, and we'll see how it goes. And it's very upsetting, isn't the word? Worrying isn't the word because you sort of just have to let it go, don't you? You sort of just have to not worry. The unfortunate problem that a lot of Americans seem to be pointing out in regards to their current political system is that there are so many people over there, and it's probably the case here as well in Australia, that a lot of people are just like, look, life's better if you just don't worry. And it's like, yeah, but there are certain things that you should worry about and you have to worry about. We kind of have to worry that governments are getting too much power and are able to do things to us that we don't want. A lot of these people that complained about COVID vaccines and things like that, I'm like, well, actually, we do just have to trust the science and trust the scientists. And it's good that some people say, no, I don't think that's right. Because, for instance, there was formaldehyde. There was a drug that was released and given to newborn parents whilst they were pregnant. And it turned out that it then caused deformities in their growth, gestation. I don't know what the word is. But anyway, they were born without limbs and things like that. And there was one person who said, no, wait a second, I don't like the science here. Let's not push this too quickly. Let's do some more tests. And in certain places, those tests were done and it was established that there was a problem and they didn't give that drug out. And so certain areas didn't have the same results as other areas, and until it was established that this is a problem and they got rid of it completely. So did somebody say lead's a problem back then? And then where do you go in terms of who do you listen to? You listen to the scientists who tell you that this thing is safe, and you go, okay, cool. But then another scientist says this thing is not safe. There's a meme at the moment where I think it's Joe Rogan, and it's a picture of 10 doctors, and it says 9 out of 10 doctors recommend blah blah blah. And then the joke is that Joe Rogan goes, that one doctor, I bet he's onto something. And it's kind of true in some instances, because sometimes one doctor or one expert notices, oh wait, that's wrong, that's bad, that's not doing a good thing. And everyone else is like, no, it's fine, that's how we always do it, we've been doing it that way forever. And you get to this one doctor who's like, no, I think that's wrong. And then you find out, oh, wait a second, he was right. But then, how many times is that one doctor wrong? So we're screwed. We're screwed either way. We're screwed if we care. We're screwed if we don't care. We're screwed if we listen to the scientists. We're screwed if we don't listen to the scientists. I personally try to care 75%, 80%, have a little bit of time where I go to the park and I sit in the bushes and I don't care. But most of the time, I try to care. Most of the time, I listen to the scientists. 80% maybe. Yeah. What do you do? What do you do? Tell me. What's your philosophy on these things? Do you care 100%, or do you care 80%? Do you just sort of not worry and just go, hey, look, I'm not doing any harm to anyone. Everyone, each to their own. Everyone's for themselves. Because to a certain degree, it is everyone for themselves. We do live in a world where predominantly, a lot of the time, it's everyone for themselves. If you can't work out how to survive, then you die. And unfortunately, there is a limit to how much people will help you. And you're on your own. But then sometimes you're not. Sometimes you are. What's your coping mechanism? Let me know in the comments if you're watching this. I want to know, or if you've watched this far. And look, I can see the numbers because of YouTube and the wonderful things, and you're not listening this far. No one's listening this far. I could say something absolutely abhorrent right now, and no one's watching. So it's all good in the end. But maybe one day, maybe after uni year, it won't be. There'll be people listening, and we'll all communicate, and we'll all have a discussion, and we'll talk about stuff. Because that's what I want. I want a community. It's funny. I was thinking the other day that one of my goals with this kind of stuff is I like the idea of being a podcast that you listen to and you communicate and you interact with, and there's a certain community, small town community kind of feel for the interactions that would happen from the podcast. And then I thought to myself, why do I not like interacting with people in person, but I like the idea of interacting with people via a little podcast like this? It's very strange. It's a very strange way of thinking that I've got going on with that. And I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's because I can somewhat control it, or in the version of my brain or my vision, I can control the interactions that we have. So yeah, no one's listening up until this point, so why do I even bother? I was hoping for more of it, and maybe a chirping sound on that one. No, that's... Do I get into trouble for that? 10 points if you can tell me where that's from. That one too. Anyway, those are a few sound effects that I'll eventually use on a more regular basis. But thank you very much. What I want, if you do listen this far, please like, please subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. Please share with your friends if you think it's worth it. Because I'm thinking about buying or paying for a music license so that I can actually play records on the show, because that's something that I really want to do. I want it to be a show with a bit of music, a bit of news, a bit of everything, like a breakfast radio type show. How much should I pay? If this is uni year, how much should I pay? How much is it worth for uni year? And maybe I do spend a bunch of money and go, right, 1 year. We're going to do 1 year and we're going to spend money. And after that, we're going to pack up the bag and disappear if it doesn't work, which is more than likely. If you've got a van or something you want to give me, that would be great too. I'd like to work. I feel like living in a van down by the river is probably going to be the most likely thing for me. Anyway, thank you for listening this far. If you have, check out the Bobby Freakout Hour. Check out the Daily Freakout. Check out Bobby Freakout anywhere on the internet and see my controversial views of anarchy and Satanism and things like that. I found that I've been saying Hail Satan to a lot of Christian posts and stuff that I see these days, because Satan is the adversary and anarchy means no rulers, no kings, and that's what I like. Anyway, this is the Daily Freakout for Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026. Thank you so much for watching this far. If you have, listening this far, please tell your mother I said hi. I can't say that because that's a rip-off of Rove. And maybe, instead of growing this mustache out in a stupid... Well, actually, is that a Van Dyke when it's just... Oh no, that looks bad. Like that, it looked like... If I pull it like that, it looks okay. But if I leave it like that, it doesn't look as good. Anyway, I'm thinking of shaving it. Anyway, thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow.